With the first of an eagerly awaited, what we hope will be a series of supplemented books focused around bringing the non-Imperium races and classes to life, comes Inheritance of Embers, Wrath and Glory's Guide to Playable Aeldari. This book, at a surprising 160 pages, covers a multitude of both new and current archetypes, psychic powers, weapons, items, and armour, and so much more. The book opens with a little introduction into the aeldari race and their position within the Gilead system, then followed by character creation. The burning question on everyone's mind is, can you play a Harlequin or even drukhari? And the answer is a resounding and jubilant yes. The 4 playable aeldari factions are Craftworld, Corsairs, Drukhari, and Harlequins. There are no Exodite specific character options, although the writers have stated that using the rules for archetype creation of course you can, and they have absolutely supplied the equipment, options, talents, and psychic powers with which to create one yourself. A lot of what you see in this book actually supersedes the established rules found in the core rulebook. Annoying for very few, I'd imagine, but the welcome overhaul is an absolute joy, and most will be overwhelmed at the abundance of choice the supplement brings. To put into context, there were only 3 archetypes in the core rulebook: the Corsair, Ranger, and Warlock. The Corsair Tier 1 core rulebook archetype is missing from this supplement, so I reached out to Cubicle 7 to clarify. C7's current stance is that, quote from their production team, "We feel that the new archetypes better reflect the aeldari as a whole, but for a Tier 1 game, players should absolutely feel free to use the original Corsair archetype." This sentiment was also echoed from the writers on the Discord as well. So technically it's still a legal build from the core rulebook, and the only Tier 1 archetype you can play currently is an aeldari, unless you use the rules to downgrade a higher tier archetype for a lower tier gameplay. Those of you more eagle-eyed would have seen that Corsair now has its own entire subgenre of archetypes in itself, but the lowest tier archetype in this bracket from the supplement is now Tier 2, the Void Reaver, or the other choice is the Soul Weaver and Wayseeker. Just a quick skim to compare the 2 Ranger classes in the new supplement and the core rulebook, and the changes are minimal. In fact, the only real difference in fundamental build is the extra point of fellowship the new Ranger archetype receives. Warlocks are identical, so no changes there, though for both Ranger and Warlock it's nice to see their flavour text has been updated, so it makes for a nice read. This means that current Ranger and Warlock players are still rocking completely valid builds and don't necessarily need the new supplement to carry on per se, but will be missing out on an astronomical amount of fun and exciting additions from this supplement. There's a whole range of new abilities alongside the new archetypes, and to summarise this perfectly, here's a design note from Michael Duxbury, one of the main writers. He says, "Craftworld abilities are straightforward bonuses. Coterie abilities provide selfish benefits if you show off by doing unnecessarily well. Drukhari sub-faction abilities are extremely powerful but make life worse for everyone. Cabals still get bonuses, witch cults still get combat bonuses, covens get weird stuff, and masks just require you to be lucky, though you can tilt the odds in your favour with the luck of the Laughing God talent." There are a whopping 32 archetypes in this supplement, listed here with their respected tiers, 2 of which are from the core rulebook, and as mentioned previously, we are missing the Tier 1 Corsair, bringing the current aeldari archetype offering to a massive 33. 5 are Corsair, 4 are Harlequin, 10 are Drukhari, and 13 are Craftworld. As for aeldari exclusive talents included in the book, I won't go over all of them, but a few points are: Battle Psyker from Redacted Records costs 20 experience, but in the supplement the aeldari version is 10 experience. This feels intentional and not a print error simply because aeldari are natural born psychers and should have their upper hand when it comes to psychic abilities. The new Animal Companion talent is super fun and basically lets you tame a creature that is not an adversary level at your current tier. Though the lack of a Falchu, the bird that can be found as a companion to the Voidsguard, as a stats block is a shame and a missed opportunity. Coincidentally, it is mentioned in the Voidsguard Wargear section, but comes with no entry in the Wargear pages either. I've since passed this observation on to the production team, so it might make an appearance down the line, fingers crossed. The already established rites of battle from the core rulebook are conveniently relisted here, which is very useful. To accompany them come several other categories of aeldari exclusive psychic powers, called Bone Singing, Phantasmancy, Runes of Fate, and Runes of Fortune. This gives a huge 27 psychic abilities, some of which are combat focused, whereas some are utility based, so it offers something for many scenarios like conjuring Wraithbone into existence, for example. As mentioned earlier, there are also updated equipment entries. These are so concise that the powered melee weapons entry alone takes up an entire page. There's armour, a specific section on helmets, drugs and toxins, and equipment. The newly included Dark Light weapons makes for a very powerful addition. There are also now new Ascension packages exclusive to the Aeldari race, and while I don't necessarily use Ascension packages myself, opting to do something a little more custom, it's a welcome addition as these were in short supply in previous supplements. And finishing up, the book has a section on role-playing the Aeldari characters and some of the background lore, including lore in the Gilead system. There's also some pretty intriguing frameworks as well, which no doubt I'll incorporate into my gameplay session at some point. As it currently stands, you would need several books to fully weigh up your Aeldari options whilst building and playing an Aeldari character. The core rulebook is standard, though admittedly not for character creation anymore, as the new supplement more than covers that, but you would need it for things like talent options. Redacted Records 1 and 2, once again for a spattering of talent options, and then Church of Steel at a push if you wanted to access the Aeldari vehicles and customizations. With that in mind though, those books are completely optional at this stage, and you could absolutely build and play an Aeldari character from this supplement alone, not necessarily needing the spattering of talent options from the other books, which is great. This is a must-buy for Aeldari players, and a good addition to those who enjoy the Wrath and Glory series.